Okay, today we're going to take a look at the Genesis Gran Equator luxury off-road concept that Genesis revealed today at the New York Auto Show. Let's jump in. Well, immediately we look at this and we can see this has Range Rover influence written all over it. Of course, Genesis is doing it in their own fashion, and it really, based on the lack of a grille, smooth lines, we're going to assume it's an EV, although they didn't reveal any mechanical details at the reveal today. I think the first thing that's most apparent, aside from this being a very high-end off-road SUV design, is it's really simplistic, really elemental. Genesis, of course, is now known for their two-line motif. And you'll see this front and rear. It's really the only distinguishing characteristic that Genesis has as part of their brand design DNA at the moment, and they've gone all in on it. The only thing that would make it more substantial is if these lines were to go all the way across the car, but of course we don't want them to do that. Aside from the two lines, we see there's no grille. What we have instead are these really interesting but also sort of small headlight units. Although there's no main grille, we do have these little ventilation openings, and that motif is also repeated in the rear. Realistically, that is for battery cooling. We see those kinds of very low mounted active louvers on almost every EV these days. And the character of the front of the vehicle is really fundamentally defined by these very upright, blunt nose and almost perfectly flat hood, and just the gargantuan length, the distance between the nose and the door and the base of the A-pillar. Just a super long hood, something that conveys luxury, premium nature, spare no expense type engineering. We also can't look past these massive and super knobby wheels. You know, this almost for sure is a rendering. I highly doubt that they took this priceless concept car out into the Sahara Desert to take these promo shots. But what we have here is a wheel and tire package that just conveys pure ruggedness. So really clean, minimalistic lines. We have these beautiful arched fenders with a little bit of flares, big shoulder line, big bulges, and just a featureless body side. And the last thing we'll note here on this front view is we get our first view of this really shallow greenhouse on top of this massive and smooth, clean body side. Moving to the profile view. It's almost cartoonish. I mean, I love it and it's exaggerated, but I think that it's just so unusual to see a car, concept or not, debut with this type of axle to dash distance. This is something that you'll typically see on the highest end Rolls-Royce and Bentley coupes. And otherwise, no one's willing to make that compromise, because to get, these are huge 24-inch wheels. We don't know what this wheelbase is, but it's got to be 130 inches. And you don't get a massive passenger compartment because so much of that length is given over to whatever's going on in here. And considering that it's almost certainly an EV, we know it's not a massive V8 or V12 or even a straight six. This is just maybe cargo space. I don't know. We'll find out later. But from the side view, we again get a beautiful look at the two-line motif, beginning at the nose of the vehicle, here in through the fenders, and then these super long crossbody LEDs. It does have a sporty appearance, and I think that what really gives it the sporty appearance is this fast roof with that sporty D-pillar, this sort of reclining belt line, and these big fender flares, and even this little shallow distance between the greenhouse and the top of that rear wheel well. We also see very minimalistic detailing. I love this really fine line around the fender, you know, in a lot of SUVs to make them look tough for off-road. You see massive black plastic appliques or cladding. And here they've done what they need to do. We do have a little bit of ruggedness there, but you don't see black cladding on the bottom. There's no black bumpers. And what it does is it elevates it. And like Range Rover, and this was a sort of a design concept that Range Rover pioneered, is just paring things down to the most minimalist, the minimum necessary. And that sort of makes it feel premium, especially when you have super tight shut lines and it's not a lot of ornamentation. Everything there feels purposeful. Speaking of purposeful, these really beautifully detailed luggage racks or rails up top with those massive supports. It just looks ready for an overlanding adventure. And also you have the idea that this thing is going to kick ass. It's going to go super fast because it just looks that way. Now here's another front quarter view. This one, you get a really clear emphasis on this huge soft bulge. My one critique of the surfacing of this car is this bulge right here. That fender flare, how it swells. Now, overall, I really love it. It's clean. It looks strong. The way that tires and wheels sit just outside the lip of the fender well makes it have a very firm, planted stance. The lines flow really elegantly. Everything is connected. Of course, this is a pre-production or concept vehicle, so some of the practicalities of a production vehicle don't have to be addressed in terms of like where the bumper meets the fender. They don't have to like have those production ready and compromises that are need to be made for whether it's for safety or producibility. But I just think the way that this shadow line falls here is just a little droopy. That's my only complaint. Very vertical, very straight A-pillars, super flat roof all the way across, super flat hood line. This is literally a vertical blunt nose. The detail of how those lights meet the door, it's okay. It isn't good or bad. It's interesting. And just a good view at the stance of that vehicle. I think here you can also see these cute little 4-pot lights, a couple of them inside this perfectly circle hollow. And that's going to finish the front. Now we get a good look at the rear quarter, 3/4 view here. There they are, those very bright, very distinctive 2-line Genesis design theme. Like I said earlier, that's almost their whole design DNA, especially as they've been navigating between gas-powered and now battery-powered vehicles. Their front of their cars, on their gas cars, are known for these big grills with some really cute, pretty detailing, but not on the EVs. We don't have that. So we look at the rear view. This one really emphasizes the ride height. So there's a lot of ground clearance here, 10 inches at least. These are 24-inch wheels again. So they look proportionate, but it tells you if you put 21s or 20s on this thing, they might look really tiny. Super long wheelbase. This thing just makes it look, this long, elegant line just makes the thing look expensive, elevated, regal. We have the repetition of those 3 small ventilation ports from the front on the rear. And again, another good look at the swoopy rear quarter. Here we have the Genesis block letters, almost a requirement these days for any new vehicle, certainly new SUVs. That's necessary requirement to be a new vehicle in 2025. And here's a beautiful look from a bird's eye view. This sort of interesting and unusual for individual skylights. Glass roofs seem to be all the rage. I guess if you want to make the vehicle seem a little bit more exclusive or unique, this is a way that you can do that. So when it comes to branding on the Gran Equator, there's not a lot going on. On the rear, they have the block letters Genesis written just like every new SUV has. In the front, they've put their beautiful, elegant winged Genesis badge. And here on the nose, it sort of is like carving this little sculpture into the hood. There aren't a lot of details, so this detail is, elevated in importance. That's our view of the Genesis Gran Equator. I think it's a really interesting piece from Genesis. They have been debuting a few new designs. The Gran Coupe actually came out just a week ago. And Genesis, we know, Hyundai, Kia, Genesis are a huge powerhouse. Their EV architecture has been massively disruptive to the industry, and they're making great strides. Genesis, while having a lot of highly respected, really well-reviewed vehicles, is still working on establishing itself on the same plane with the major luxury players. I think it's respected, certainly within the industry, within the punditry, but to my mind, they haven't made their mark with that one vehicle that sort of like sets the tone and lets people know who Genesis is, the way that the Lexus RX back 25 years ago sort of became the defining vehicle of Lexus. And the 3 Series is for BMW. I think Genesis is still, as a brand, has a lot of work to do to define itself in the marketplace. Vehicles like this are going to go a long way to capture people's mind share. I think it's a great, it lays out a great potential. A lot remain to be seen how they might turn this into a production car. All right, see you guys next time.